Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's neighborhood meeting. My name is Andrew Gamero, and I'm a planner with the City of Barrie's Development Services Department. I also wanted to note that with us this evening is your local ward councillor, Anne Marie Cundles. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to present to you the neighborhood, a development concept being considered by the owner and the development team of 290 Cundles Road East, prior to a formal development application being submitted to the city. This provides an opportunity for the development team to hear initial community feedback and to incorporate it into their plans prior to making a full and formal application to the city. Just please be aware that this evening we are recording this meeting for the public record. The recording will be used for the purpose of garnering your input and to respond to inquiries, and will be considered public information. Please also be aware that as a registered attendee tonight, your mailing or email address will be added to the mailing list for this future file so that you can receive further information about the future application should one be submitted and as it progresses. And should you have any questions regarding the collection of any of the information this evening, please do not hesitate to contact the Development Services Department after this meeting. I'd also like to let everyone know that we do have staff behind the scenes managing the technology for us tonight. They're here to make sure that the meeting runs smoothly, to grant participants the opportunity to speak, and to assist with any questions that may pop up in the chat. And I do ask that if we do run into any technical difficulties, just please bear with us. We'll do our best to resolve those and get the meeting moving forward as scheduled. And if for some reason you do get disconnected, just please feel free to log back in. And if there's anything that you missed or you require clarification, we can always follow up with you at the end during the question and answer period. So just quickly, I want to go over the expectations for tonight's meeting. So the intent of tonight's meeting is to provide members of the public an opportunity to become familiar with this potential development application, as well as the planning review process, and to also ask the applicant questions and to provide some general feedback. So what you can expect this evening is firstly a brief overview of the city's review process and timing, just so you get a better understanding of how things work should an application be filed with the city. You'll also receive a presentation from the applicant's representative describing the proposal. And finally, at the end, you'll have an opportunity to ask questions of either the applicant or city staff, and just to provide comments or identify any concerns that you have with the proposal, just to note anything that the developer should consider moving forward before making a submission. What we won't be doing this evening, just a few things. So city staff won't be providing a recommendation or a detailed analysis on this proposal. This would occur later in the process. As we're through the formal application process, there will be a subsequent public meeting and a staff recommendation report with an analysis of the application, and all comments that were received will be provided to council at a later date through the formal process. So tonight's not the opportunity for us to be making any recommendations or analyzing the application. And finally, please don't expect a debate on the merits of the proposal between city staff and the applicant, or between residents and the applicant or residents and city staff. This is purely an information session. It's an opportunity for members of the public to become familiar with the proposal and to provide some feedback prior to the applicant filing an application. Just before we get into the applicant's presentation, I just wanted to quickly highlight the next steps in the application process, just so everyone's familiar with what will occur after this should an application be filed with the city. So this neighborhood meeting is established early on in the development process to ensure local concerns are incorporated or addressed through the city's technical review of the application. After this meeting, we do expect that the applicant will likely make a formal application submission for this development project. And if an application is made, that formal submission would undergo a full technical review. And the expectation is that the applicant is to address the comments that have been received at this neighborhood meeting to the best of their ability, and also to address any comments that may be provided through the formal technical review process by the city's departments and any applicable external agencies. So in conjunction with the technical review process that occurs when an application is filed with the city, there would also be a statutory public meeting, which is a requirement under the Planning Act. And that would be held in the council chambers. So you can attend in person if you register for the meeting, but you can also participate virtually as well, as those meetings are live streamed through YouTube. And those meetings are held before the city's Affordability Committee, which is a committee of council and is made up of members of council. And at that public meeting, the applicant's representative, similar to tonight, they would once again present their application to council, answer questions, and provide an overview and response to any of the issues, comments, or concerns that were provided or identified during tonight's neighborhood meeting. So they would identify the feedback that they received this evening in their presentation and discuss how they've responded to that feedback. And also at the public meeting, members of the public would again have an opportunity to provide verbal or written comments in regard to the application, and it would form part of the official record associated with that file. And following that public meeting, staff would continue the technical review of the application. And there'd likely be some back and forth with the applicant, as the applicant may make any necessary revisions to the development proposal in response to the review comments that are provided by the city and any applicable external agencies. And finally, at the end of the process, once the technical review has concluded, a staff recommendation report would be brought forward to council for their consideration. And if you've participated in tonight's meeting and you participate in the public meeting, we've got your contact information. So you would receive notification of that staff report being brought forward to general committee for a decision. And I just want to note that all of the comments received throughout the review process, including those received at tonight's neighborhood meeting, any comments received at the future public meeting, as well as any of the technical review comments that are provided from the city's technical review team and external agencies, would be identified and addressed in the staff recommendation report and would form part of staff's recommendation on the future application. And if the future application were to be approved by general committee, if they recommended approval on the staff report, a bylaw would then be brought forward to be passed by council, and members of the public who have been involved with the process would have an opportunity to make a deputation to council if they chose to do so. So that's kind of the process in a nutshell at a high level. Hopefully it was clear, but if anyone does have any questions about the process, I'm happy to answer those questions during the Q&A period, or you can contact me after tonight's meeting if you want to have a chat. My contact information will be available on the last slide of this presentation, and it's also available on the city's proposed developments webpage under Ward 3. There's a web page for this file, so you can find my contact info there as well if you'd like to follow up with me that way. So on that note, what I'll do now is I'll move on to the applicant's presentation. As I mentioned, the proposed project and application will be presented first, which we will follow with a question and comment period. And before I hand it over to the applicant's representative, which is Mr. Greg Barker, from Innovative Planning Solutions. He's presenting on behalf of Cal Park Developments, Inc. I'll just at a high level summarize the application, but Mr. Barker will get into the details. So tonight we're focusing on a zoning bylaw amendment application. It's proposed at 290 Cundles Road East. And the proposal is seeking to rezone a portion of this property, which currently exists as a church property. So they're looking to rezone it from institutional to a residential multiple dwelling second density zone with site specific provisions to permit the development of 20 back-to-back townhouse units, of which approximately, I believe, 4 of them are going to be offered as affordable units. And I also wanted to note that the neighborhood meeting flyers that you would have received, as well as the notification sign on the property, you probably saw that it mentioned that an official plan amendment was required as well. So at the time of going through pre-consultation with the city and requesting this neighborhood meeting, the city's official plan, a new official plan, which had been adopted by council, had not yet been approved by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. However, that has been approved as of April 11th with some modifications. And in the new official plan, this property is now designated community hub rather than institutional. And that community hub designation does permit residential uses up to, or with at a minimum density, of 50 units per hectare. So for that reason, an official plan amendment is no longer required because residential uses are permitted within that land use designation. So moving forward, should an application be filed with the city, it would be for solely a zoning bylaw amendment. So I just wanted to clarify that just so there's no miscommunication. So on that note, what I'll do now is I will hand the meeting controls over to Mr. Barker, who will first introduce himself and his team, and then he will share his presentation on the proposed development. Go ahead, Mr. Barker.
Thank you, Andrew, and good evening, everyone. Andrew, I appreciate that sort of introduction and that overview. Just to reiterate before I get into a presentation, yes, the intent is to provide a high-level overview to you, the residents, and then here's some feedback from you on the proposal, which, as Andrew indicated, we'll take that away and include that as part of a response package as part of our complete application. So with that, I'll just pull up our presentation materials here, and we can sort of jump right into it. So yes, my name is Greg Barker. I'm a partner with Innovative Planning Solutions, representing the applicant for a zoning bylaw amendment that is being considered for 290 Cundles Road East. The subject lands, they're currently occupied by the Barrie Free Methodist Church. They have an approximate area of 1.57 hectares or 3.88 acres. The property as a whole is outlined in red on this slide and includes frontage on both Cundles Road as well as Livingston Street. As well as multiple access points from Cundles as well as from Livingston. And those accesses provide vehicular access into the church, the parking lot, and the associated drive aisles. The property as a whole, generally flat in nature, contains the vegetation sort of around the perimeter of the site, primarily along the north boundary, as well as the east boundary shown here, and some vegetation along this property line as well. However, just for clarification and to be clear, the lands that are shown here is outlined in yellow. Those are the lands that are subject to this proposed zoning bylaw amendment. Just want to be clear, we're not proposing development over the entirety of the lands. It is isolated to the area roughly shown in yellow. Which is approximately 0.28 hectares or 0.7 acres. There's approximately 50 meters of frontage along Livingston Street. And these lands, as you can tell in this aerial image, are generally beyond the paved parking area with the church, and includes the existing access from Livingston Street. In terms of surrounding uses and surrounding context, again, the property is sort of central to this image, outlined in red as well as yellow, with this green circle generally representing about a 500-meter radius, which is more or less considered, a safe walking distance. And as most of the residents of the area are likely familiar, there's a wide range of commercial uses and amenities that would meet everyday needs. They're in proximity to a number of schools, parks, and open space. There's access to public transit, as well as proximity to the Duckworth and Highway 400 interchange. As we know and shown on this slide, the lands are also in proximity to both Georgian College as well as Royal Victoria Hospital, excuse me. And as well as in proximity to a number of employment uses that sort of straddle the Highway 400 corridor. In terms of residential uses, there's a variety of residential uses in this area. Generally speaking, the north side is primarily comprised of single detached or freehold type built forms. And then on the north side, the south side, there's some recently developed apartment buildings like I said, on the south side of Cundles. In terms of policy context and land use designations and zoning, as Mr. Gamero pointed out, the city's official plan was recently approved by the province and now is in effect. So the image on the left in that blue color represents the community hub designation, which these lands are designated. And then on the right is an excerpt from the zoning bylaw, and are currently zoned as institutional. So this image here, this image illustrates the conceptual site plan over the portion of the church property we are contemplating for development. It has frontage along Livingston Street and would relocate the existing access from the south side up to the north side and away from the intersection at Cundles. This plan, the concept plan proposes a total of 20 back-to-back townhouse units. There's a block of 8 units at the rear of the property. And then there are 12 additional units fronting onto Livingston. And as you can see, they're broken up into 2 separate blocks. And I'll speak to that in just a moment. Access to the site, it is achieved from Livingston Street over a condominium road. This will continue to provide access to the church parking lot. It is anticipated that an easement will be established in favor of the church to provide that continued access in perpetuity. And then we also have a north-south condominium road proposed to provide access to both the covered parking below the 8-unit of townhouses, as well as access to the 12 units in the individual driveways for the 12 units fronting onto Livingston. The block of 8 units at the rear of the property is proposed at a height of 14.3 meters. This would include 1 level of covered parking and 3 levels of or floors of living space. And as shown on here, there's an approximate setback of about 13.7 meters from the north property line. And then the 12 units which front onto Livingston Street, they are broken out into the 2 blocks, as I mentioned. The block of 4 units as shown in this location here, primarily on sort of the north side. Those 4 units are intended to be dedicated to Habitat for Humanity. This would represent a 20% of the total unit count being made for affordable housing. But collectively, all 12 of these units would provide for 2 parking spaces each. This would include a single car garage and a driveway. And these units are proposed at a height of 3 stories or 12 meters. There's also a common outdoor amenity area proposed in the southeast corner of the property. And then in terms of sort of cumulative parking, there's a total of 40 spaces provided for the 20 units. 12 of those spaces are considered to be tandem parking spaces, and those are effectively the driveways and the garage spaces proposed for these 12 units here. Further, 6 of the spaces are identified for visitor parking. There's a 3-meter landscape buffer proposed along the north property line. This will retain the existing trees. You can sort of faintly see these circles that are identifying the location of existing trees. Those were picked up in a recent topographic survey. And the intention is for those trees to remain. And there's also a buffer along the south property line with trees retained where possible as well. So in terms of the formal application, as Mr. Gamero mentioned, an official plan amendment is no longer required. We are here tonight to request your feedback on a zoning bylaw amendment. rezoning the lands from institutional to residential multiple dwelling second density with special provisions. The special provisions, the site-specific special provisions we are considering at this time are shown on this slide, highlighted in yellow. They relate to front and rear yard setbacks, increased building height, a reduced landscape buffer area, a reduced parking count, and an increase in density. Also, as Mr. Gamero had pointed out, we had completed a pre-consultation meeting with city staff, and it was through this initial process where a number of technical reports and studies were identified by the city as being required, and these reports are currently underway. They're not quite finalized at this point, but they will be made available and submitted to the city and made available to the public when that application has been deemed complete. And then just very briefly, in terms of, from a further policy context, the subject lands are located within the city's built up area. They would contribute, the development would contribute to the city's intensification targets, which has the effect of reducing the demand and pressure for urban sprawl. Four of the units, or 20%, are proposed in the form of affordable housing. Will be dedicated to Habitat for Humanity, in keeping with both provincial and municipal goals of providing affordable housing. The concept plan provides a compact, walkable, and transit supportive development in an appropriate location in proximity to existing day-to-day amenities. The development also, in our opinion, contributes to the achievement of a complete community, including the range of housing options in the area. It provides for functional and appropriate housing stock, including affordable housing units and attainable housing products at a time where affordability is becoming more and more challenging. So in summary, a zoning bylaw amendment application is being considered to facilitate the development of 20 back-to-back townhouse units over vacant and underutilized portions of the church property. The development provides for affordable housing units and an appropriate level of intensification in an area that currently benefits from convenient access to the day-to-day amenities and is also transit supportive. And it's through our preliminary review that our opinion is that the proposal conforms to and is consistent with applicable plan policy and generally represents good planning. So with that, Andrew, I might turn it over to you, but that concludes my my presentation.